Miss Maria. This is Cheyenne. He's a very nice gelding and he'll be helping us demonstrating the 8 techniques. First I'll be starting on the long back muscles, which are the spinalis dorsi and longissimus dorsi. They allow lateral flexion of the back and flexion of the shoulder joint. First I'll be using my fist and some cross fiber friction. Then I'll be using my fingertips with some muscle combing. These are with the muscle fibers. Now I'll be using the palm of my hand for some press and glide compression. Next I'll be working on the loins. These are the quadratus lumborum and the outer edge of the iliopsoas. This supports the vertebral column and allows lateral flexion and rotation. I'll first be using my fist in cross fiber friction. Next I'll be using my fingertips in compression, with a push and release motion. I'll be moving on to the haunches. These are the middle gluteus and the superficial gluteus muscles. They extend the hip and causes medial rotation of the hind limb. This allows forward impulsion, an extension and swing of the hind leg and impulsion. I'll be using cross fiber friction and some muscle combing. I'll still be using my fingertips for some compression. And we'll do any stress points or trigger points needed. The palm of my hand. Would be good for self-effleurage. We are now at the croup bone area. This bone is very prominent. This is the tuberosacral and the lumbosacral joint. And it holds the pelvis in place and allows good swing of the hind legs. I'll be using direct finger pressure here. And he's releasing. And standing more square. Now we are at the upper hamstring attachments. They are the bicep femoris and the sembitendinosus. They extend hip and hock. I'll be using compression with my thumb and finger pressure. And I'll use cross fiber friction with my fingers. The abductors on the inside of the hind legs. They are the gracilis muscles. Compression with a press and glide compression. Start in the section of the muscle and go towards the hip joint. It pulls the limb backwards and allows abduction of the hip. It lowers the tuberocopsy and aids in flexion. I'll be using my fist and some fingers for kneading between these muscles. Very sweety. See? Next is the quadriceps. They are composed of 3 muscles, the rectus femoris, the lateral vastus, and the lateral vastus. I'll be using my fingertips and kneading motion. The job of these muscles are to extend the stifle. I'll be using the heel of my hand. And I'll be working upward to the hip joint. on the inside of the vastus muscle. The area between last rib and point of hip is the coxal tuber. Any massager will be affecting the muscle portion of the tensor fasciae latae, iliculus, external oblique, internal oblique, and the transverse abdominis. I'll be using direct pressure with my thumb and fingertips. Now classify the friction with my closed fingers. The area behind the shoulder. There's two very important muscles, the thoracic serratus. The thoracic serratus aids in respiration. The latissimus dorsi allows flexion of the neck and back. I'll be using the palm of my hand in broad strokes and friction. Deep effleurage follows. He's very sensitive here. Now a circular operation. I'm lowering my pressure, it's sensitive. We're now moving on to the withers. It has two very important attachments, which is the trapezius and the rhomboid. The withers draw the scapula forward and upward and elevates the neck and shoulder. I'll be using friction in this small area. Open first. He is tight here. He is releasing. Now I'll be using compression. Belly line can be divided into two parts, the chest muscles and the groin and abdominal muscles. The belly line supports the rib cage. The chest muscles are the pectorals, in other words. The pectoral behind the forelegs, I'll be using fingertips and deep if you watch. And friction, soft friction, my fingertips. For the pectoral between the forelegs, I'll use fingertip deep pressure. Some friction. The pectoral in front of the forelegs, using deep fingertip pressure. And some kneading. The groin muscles and abdominal muscles consist out of three very important muscles, which is the internal oblique, the rectus abdominis, and the external oblique. The internal oblique allows compression of the abdominal and helps in expiration. I'll use my fingertips in a connective tissue massage. I'll just use some compression of my fingertips. It is sensitive here. Rectus abdominis allows flexion of the spine. Start from the rib attachment. Let's go to the seat. Just using normal compression in my fingertips. And I'll use an upward pressure using my fingers. The external oblique allows flexion of the trunk laterally and compresses the abdomen. Just using compression, very short force. shoulder has 5 important muscles: the supraspinatus, infraspinatus, deltoid, and tricep, as well as the 4th pectoral. First, I'll be using friction with my fist and the supraspinatus and the infraspinatus. I'll be using the heel of my hand with some compression. And some kneading on the 4th pectoral. The rhomboids in the next section. Releasing a lot. Very sore here. The other neck muscles contain brachiocephalus, cervical serratus, and the splenius. I'll be using deep effleurage with the palm of my hand. These muscles are very sensitive. So I'll be going with the fibers. And now in with some marking. This video concludes the 8 techniques in Portafix's, of course. Thank you. This is still Cheyenne. I'll be doing it on the right side now. The long back muscles, spinalis dorsi and longissimus dorsi. They allow lateral flexion of the back and flexion of the shoulder joint. First, I'll be using my fist in cross fiber friction. And I'll be using my fingertips, some muscle combing. I'll use the palm of my hand, some press and glide compression. And it's releasing. Lowering my pressure. Next I'll be working on the loins. These are the quadratus lumborum and the outer edge of the ilicostomus. This supports the vertebral column and allows lateral flexion and rotation. First squeezing my fist in some cross fiber friction. Just releasing. Next I'll be using my fingertips and some compression. The push and release. Moving on to the haunches, these are the middle gluteus and the superficial gluteus. They extend the hip and cause medial rotation of the hind limb. It causes forward impulsion and hind limb action, as well as extension and abduction of the pelvis. I'll be using my fingertips and some muscle coating. I'll still be using my fingertips for some compression and cross fiber friction. My thumb will do any stress points and trigger points. This one. And the palm of my hand will be good for some FRH. Now the glute bone area, where the tubosacral and lumbosacral joint meets. This holds the pelvis in place and allows good swing of the legs. I'll be using direct finger pressure here. Now we are at the upper hamstring attachments. They extend hip and hock and allows internal rotation and flexes the styloform. These are the semimembranosus, semitendinosus, and bicep femoris. I'll be using compression with my fingertips and thumb. As well as the quadriceps. Then cross fiber friction with my fingers. The abductors are between the legs and it pulls the leg backwards and allows abduction of the hip and lowers the tuberococci. It allows flexion and inward rotation and rotates the femur medially. I'm using my fist for kneading between these muscles. Next is the quadriceps. They are composed of three muscles, the rectus femoris, the lateral vastus, and the medial vastus. I'll be using my fingertips in a kneading motion. Job of these muscles are to extend and stabilizes the stifle joint. I'll be using the heel of my hand and I'll be working upward to the area of the hip joint. I'll be kneading with my fingertips, my inside leg. Standing more square. The area between last rib and pointed hip, the costal tuber. Massage here will be affecting the muscle portion of the tension fascia lata, ilicalis, internal oblique and external oblique, as well as the transverse abdominis. I'll be using direct pressure with my thumb and fingertips. cross fiber friction with my braced fingers. The area behind the shoulder has two very important muscles, the thoracic serratus and the femoral dorsi. It aids in respiration and moves the scapula back. The latissimus dorsi extends the back and neck and causes lateral flexion. I'll be using the palm of my hand in broad strokes. Deep effleurage follows. Now circular compression. We're now moving on to the withers. There's two very important attachments, which is the trapezius and the rhomboid. The withers draw the scapula forward and upward and elevates the neck and shoulder. I'll be using friction in a small area with my palm. First. I'll be using compression and muscle combing with my fingertips. Releasing. The belly line is divided into two parts, the chest muscles, which are the pectorals, and the groin muscles. The belly line is for abduction and forward movement of the limbs and supports the rib cage. The pectoral behind the forelegs, I'll be using my fingertips and deep effleurage. Releasing, but it's a bit sore. Some friction. The groin muscles and abdominal muscles. Internal oblique, external oblique, and rectus abdominis. Just using some effleurage for now. Use my fingertips with a connective tissue massage. and do pressure. The external oblique allows flexion of the trunk laterally. I'll use some of my elbow. Very soft compression. Just be using some compression, as well as a bit of kneading on the false pectoral. Sensitive here. I'll be using base pressure. The rhomboids in the neck section draws the neck up. I'll be using the heel of my hand. Friction closest to the rhythms. As I move up the crest line, I'll massage with the fibers. So we compress and glide down. The other neck muscles contain brachiocephalus, cervical serratus, and the splenius. Be using deep effleurage with the palm of my hand as well as compression. We will now end with some rocking. This is the complete end on both sides of the horse. The 8 techniques shown on all the important muscles. Thank you.